Welcome to Start Lines and Swag Bags. The airing of this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and is not intended to replace advice from professional medical or training staff. Thank you for listening and your support of the Flying Pig Project.
Hello, and welcome to this Tuesday's episode of Start Lines, Swag Bags, and I think my neighbors must think I'm crazy. If they can hear me through my walls, they've heard me start this multiple times, and I've been using some very colorful language to describe the fact that I can't seem to remember how to talk. Anyway, today is Tuesday, so we have a guest episode, and I am the guest. Marty interviewed me and asked me all of the questions that I've been asking all of you. So I do hope you enjoy my answers. I do want to give a quick shout out, though, to someone who reached out to me this week. They had been catching up on episodes, and they wanted to let me know really just how much fun I sound like I'm having on these recordings. And everyone, I have to tell you, that sound of excitement is pure and real. I really, really do love doing these episodes, talking to people, hearing their stories, learning more about them. So there you go. Thank you for the comment. I appreciate people reaching out and sharing those thoughts with me. That being said, may I introduce me?
Hello, and welcome to another Tuesday edition of Start Lines and Swag Bags. As you've hopefully figured out by now, I am not Rachael. Normally I edit these Tuesday episodes, so I'm going to be pulling double duty this week, I think. I'll be doing my best to keep the standards high. So let's just introduce our guest. Please welcome Rachael.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
This is really, I think I understand how some people feel, because this is a little weird. The good news is I made sure I have props to the point that I am over prepared.
Oh, nice. Okay. Prepared. I picked up what you put down there. All right. Well, let's just jump in. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right. So I am Rachael. I am speechless, which is unusual. I am by day a special education teacher in a therapeutic day school. I work with children that have a higher degree of different disabilities, that they need to be in a more self-contained area. By night, I have a company called the Flying Pig Project. But I'm going to start with a really funny story. So in preparation for tonight, I went through all my records to see when I actually started running.
Okay.
Because I thought it was 2012, but I forgot. So this is going to come in two parts, because this is also going to show up in the swag portion. In 2007, Nike had what was called the Women's Half Marathon. But what they did is it was actually probably one of the first virtual races. The race itself, the half marathon, is actually in California. Okay. But what they did that year is they opened it up, and I looked it up today, it was only 3,300 people did it virtually. You had to have the Nike Plus, and you had to have the not transponder, the thing in your shoe.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't a chip, was it?
No, it was something you slipped in your shoes. Actually, Nike had at that time their Pegasus was designed. It had a cutout in the shoe.
I remember that. It was like an in-shoe pod, kind of like the Stride, but it did it just counted your steps, right? It didn't really do that much.
It did. So it counted your steps. And so back then I had an Apple Nano, and it didn't, so it wasn't, there was no GPS. I mean, there was no accuracy. It took your step count. And in order to do what would technically now have been my first half marathon in 2007, I went to the Park District. And they had, I'll never forget, they had an hour limit per treadmill. Now, I didn't know anything, so I literally did an hour on this treadmill. I got off, I went in like circles, I got back on another treadmill, I got off, and it took, it took me like 4 days? I don't know. It took me, because I was walking the whole thing, because that was look, I can do a half marathon. I don't know. Either I did 11 miles, because it was so inaccurate, or I did like 15. But Nike gave little teeny tiny keychains. I did it 2 years, 2007, 2008, and they were designed by Tiffany.
Really? And you still have them. That's pretty impressive.
I know. Teeny.
They're tiny.
I still have them. So apparently I started running in 2007, but I didn't do an official race until 2012.
So hold on.
Yeah.
You started running in 2007, and the first thing you did was this ridiculous treadmill half marathon. What possessed you to start running and then do that?
I think we're using the word running a lot more liberally than we should.
Sure, but forward is a pace, right?
Right. I was moving forward. I have no stinking idea. I mean, Josh was like a year old.
Okay.
And I remember I had a jogging stroller. I had no reason to have a jogging stroller, but I had a jogging stroller. And I would take him out in the stroller. And so I don't know. I didn't know anybody back then that ran. I didn't run. And how I ended up actually like with the Nike Plus, and then it went to the little thing in the shoe, and I have no idea how all that happened.
So you just woke up one day and said, "I'm gonna torture myself on a treadmill for a little." Did you know what the swag was? Like, did you
Yes.
know anything about it going in? That's why you were doing it, or what was the motivation?
I did. I knew about the swag, and I will probably admit to it being like a little Tiffany thing that's cute.
Okay.
I mean, it's
That's
cute,
fair.
except the problem is that which year? One of the 2 years says, hold on, run like a girl. And when we talk about the swag, I will continue my bashing of Nike when it comes to how you view yourself.
Yeah. There's a lot of material there.
Yeah, there is.
So 2007 is your entrance into running. You're still, you continued to run all this time. What? It
was sporadic.
What kept you going?
I mean, there were a lot of. So I started in, I'll say 2012, because I met a friend who lived close to me and was a runner, like Heidi. She was an honest to God runner. She did marathons, the whole thing. And for about 4 or 5 years, she and I would take road trips. She would do the marathon, and I would do the half marathon. That's actually how I ended up in Cincinnati and Green Bay and a couple others. And then she moved up to Green Bay, and I just kind of toddled around. I don't think I signed up for anything until I started working at the Mile in 2018.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, here's this team called Fast Track. I didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
I was just working in a store, and on Monday nights. So the interesting thing though is on Monday nights, it was only like 6 or 7 of Group 1 came in the back to hang out where the shoes were. Everybody else was really up front. So I was just hanging with them on Monday nights, and it took me a year before I signed up to do a race with them.
Okay. This was the old store.
This was the old,
Okay.
yep, the first, yeah.
I never saw the old store, so I don't have a vision of where the back room is. It sounds very alluring.
It was the old store was like, how to describe it? It just, you walked in, the register was here, you went in back, there's a wall, there's a back room. I mean, it was just one big room. I mean, the store now is one big room, much bigger room, but it wasn't a wide building. So you'd get 35, 40 fast trackers in there, and the whole front of the store would be taken.
So when did you decide to defect and join the Skokie Swifters? So like, why did that happen?
So I grew up in Skokie. Skokie is where I lived till 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And so Fast Track was the first running team I ever really knew about. Like I don't think I knew that running teams like existed.
I'm the same way. I'm going to admit that too. I Fast Track was the first team that I ever heard of.
So all of a sudden, you know, you meet them and you start following people on Instagram, and all of a sudden other run clubs start popping up, but I don't think anything of it until all of a sudden one day I'm like, wait, the Skokie who? And I was like, that's not real. But the person who was following them was real. Like it was somebody who I knew, and I knew that must have been real. So I literally like looked them up, hopped in my car, joined them, and they had formed just 3 weeks before.
Okay. Right. Yeah. I was just listening to the episode where, who
Terrence.
was it? Was the Terrence. He was the OG Swifter, and you were a couple weeks behind him. So did you know them? Did you know the people, or you just knew Skokie, you got to be part of this thing?
I didn't know. No, because I've been gone from that area for so long that I don't know. I mean, my parents are out there, but
Yeah.
I have people like that I went to school with who still have their families out there, but I knew no one. And even now I think about it, going into that atmosphere without knowing anybody, that's really out of the box for me.
Yeah.
That's very out of the box.
Because you said it took you like a year of interacting with these like Fast Track Group 1 people before you actually joined. And within 3 weeks of that club forming in Skokie, you were right there.
Well, okay. Let's talk about some differences. Okay. All right. So we have to think about some time here. Okay. So in 2018, when I met Fast Track, I was in the middle of marathon training for a marathon that I did not finish. I was not in as good of running shape as I was in 2021 when I met the Swifters. 2021 was a big year for me. I did 24 live races in 2021.
Oh, wow.
I did pretty much every race that was either in Illinois, Wisconsin. I did them all. And I think I know my running in 2021, I went from like a 44-minute 5K to just knocking on the door of a sub 30.
Wow.
So
That's huge.
It was vast improvement. So my confidence level to go up to a running club was different in 2021 than it was in 2018. Especially in 2018 when I'm in the back of the store talking to Group 1.
Yeah.
Who were wonderful people and still, of course, are. But, you know, where did I think when I first met the club back then? Where would I fit in if that's initially what I knew?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Group 1 is, they're different.
But you know, and I'm gonna throw this in here. You know, even from 2018 to now, our club has changed so dramatically that I think the anxiety. If I walked into the way the group now, like I did back then, I don't think I would have felt the same. I think now, the way we've grown, we have so many more abilities.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different time.
Let's talk about swag. That's what we're here for, right?
So I'm looking at my pile now. It's all over the house. And the cat's playing with it all because they're metals. So they're pretty shiny things that he
Jingly, yeah, perfect.
is batting around. All right, so, but I understand the angst now of people who have to answer this question.
It's tough.
Because there's been so much swag. And the funniest thing is that if we go back to your episode, your favorite swag came from a Ragnar.
Right.
And my favorite swag is coming from a Ragnar.
Oh, interesting.
Now, I do have two, because this one was from Great River. This is the one up in Minnesota.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then this is Great River, the Chicago one. This was the first year it was Chicago to Madison? Okay. And first of all, I know it's no spork, you know, like you had. But there's a bottle opener.
Okay, so functional, that's good.
And actually, I had to really look for it, but there is one on the other one, too. It's right here. You can stick a bottle in there.
Okay.
But, you know, the thing is that when you do the road race, so there's 12, well, you could do an ultra with 6, or there's 12 of you. And the idea is that the back of the medals, if all 12 people are there, have a message.
Okay, like when you add them together?
Yeah, if you were to put out, like, I will find the picture. You know, it's like 6 here, and they say something.
Okay.
And the idea is that everybody gets a piece of the message.
So this is like the friendship bracelet or the heart locket that then you all like take out, but now when you run into them on the street, you can connect it together, right?
It is the friendship bracelet of running.
Yeah.
Because mine says we ra, so I can only guess it was like together we ran, and then can, but then this is like I don't know what that is. But this one, the reason I like this one better is because I do have half of the word believe, but when they made the medals for Chicago, each one has its own little inspirational saying.
You get the whole thing.
Every medal was different.
Really?
So we all looked and we picked the saying that either A, resonated with us the most, or B, that nobody had taken yet because you were the last one to grab the medal.
This was like a big bin they had at the end that you kind of rummage through to grab
There's still 12. There's 12 for each.
Okay.
The whole team gets 12, but each one had its own saying. So like another batch of 12 would have the same sayings, and another batch of 12.
Oh, I see. So all 12 have the same saying. But
right, so mine says
okay.
The best things in life are never given, always earned.
Oh, nice.
And it's interesting because when I snagged this one, I don't really think like I had any connection to the saying. But recent times, I think it means more to me now. So this is the favorite swag.
All right, so that's your favorite swag. What's the worst swag you've gotten so far? And I guess we're still competing against Nicole's worst swag, right?
We are, and I can't beat her. Well, actually, mine's similar because when I say it started my dislike of Nike and body image and the way they have done body image over the years. This is the finisher t-shirt that came with the medal. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's very I will tell you, it's very hard to see on screen. I'll have to do some measurements for you. But this they claimed was their extra, extra large. Okay?
Okay.
No. No. And no. And Nike's been notorious for that over the years. Nike has never figured out, I mean, like Liz and I agree. Shirts are awful.
It's a bad option.
No. Like, what are we doing with body image back in 2007 and 2008? And I don't see Nike has not necessarily gotten better.
No.
In that regard. So yes, I will 100% this Nike all over the place. This was, and back in 2007 when I got it, I wanted this shirt really bad.
Yeah,
because,
this was the race. That came with a little Tiffany thing.
Yeah, and wow. I wanted absolutely, and I have a picture of myself, and I was holding it up, and you could tell I was not going to fit into that shirt.
Yeah, that's super disappointing.
But that's just a problem, like across the board, unfortunately, in the sporting goods and when it comes to like race shirts and all of that. They think women are all teeny tiny, and we're not. So that's my worst swag.
Okay, when will they learn that like hats and like accessories are the thing that people like? The shirt thing, it just doesn't work for too many people.
I have to tell you, thank you for saying that, because I did take some notes down. I was like, I'm probably going to need some notes. And one of the notes that I wrote with the swag, I literally wrote it in here. It says, bad swag. I understand that some races do what they can, but we're talking more like little local races. Just anything other than a shirt.
Yeah. Really, anything other than a shirt.
Yes, that's like a complete statement.
I have been very interested in how many people have trashed the Chicago Marathon shirt from, I think, 2 years ago.
I know.
I have that one, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, what is this seam here? This doesn't make any sense at all. It just is. I was excited about it because I hadn't done a marathon in, 5-10 years or whatever it was. And so I was excited. I had never done a world major. I was like, oh, great, I'm going to get an awesome shirt. And then they unveiled it. I'm like, what is this garbage? This is so bad. And I can't wear it.
Isn't that Nike?
I think it is, yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. All right.
Yes.
Now is the time in the show when we talk about race distances. So tell us your...
Wait. Do we go distance or advice?
I mean, who's running this show?
All right, we'll go distance. All right. So I think the interesting thing is everybody's explaining to me why they like certain distances. And every time somebody says a half marathon, I'm like, say something other than the half marathon. I'm so sick.
It's such a good distance.
I'm so sick of hearing the half marathon. And then you're going to ask me, what's my favorite distance? Marty, guess what? It's the half marathon.
It's because it's a really good distance.
No, my reasoning is slightly different. So I have always been a slower person. I take my time. I enjoy the race. I get more out of race fees because I'm there the whole time. Of course, I don't get any water or bananas at the end because they're gone. But there's something for me about saying I did the half marathon. There always was just like that little extra, because the only person who ever asked me what my time was myself. Mm-hmm. And I did all the time. I'm the worst when it comes to that, to myself. I would say I did half marathon. Oh my God, that's awesome, amazing, great. How do you feel? And in my head, I'm like, God, don't ask me how long it took me, because that is my internal dialogue going. Mm-hmm. But the F3, which I've talked about, which was you were there actually this past year at F3.
I was.
you guys were long gone by the time I got done. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing you at the beginning, and that was, I really loved that race. I mean, I really loved that race, and I'm really looking forward to it this year.
Are you doing it this year?
Yeah.
I am not doing it this year.
Are you going to be there?
I may be there for the 5K because I have. I may be there for the 5K, but I am not doing the half.
Understandable.
And I want the swag. I want the sweatshirt.
Yeah, I mean, just for that, just sign up. You don't have to do it.
See, that's what happens. But so the thing is, though, is that was as I said in the episode, that was literally out of my entire. I've done 100+ races in distances between, 5K or a 2.8 because they don't know how to measure, up to my longest training run was 18 miles. Mm-hmm. I did not succeed at a marathon, but that was hands down the worst run I had ever had in my life. But at the end of the day, the next day, I still said I did a half marathon yesterday.
Yeah.
And, the recuperation time for that is now in its 10th month. Because I haven't run since that day.
That was the day.
Yeah. See, the thing is that I have tried. I did have a marathon try. I have said I will never do it again. There is one person who I gave a maybe to, Sabrina. Anyway, but see, I will not say that I'll never do a half again. There's like no hesitation in my voice. I will probably do it again. It'll probably be a couple of years because I think I'm going to take 2025 to focus on cycling and some other things instead. Mm-hmm. But I have no hesitation in saying I'll do another half.
Okay. That's exciting.
Yeah. I think.
Do you do revenge races? Are you going to go get revenge on F3?
No, because you know which one I want to do now is the one that John did all those years and got the big pennies.
Oh, yeah. The Springfield, yeah. Yeah,
another, I think, a downside of this show is I'm like, I want to go do that. Where was that 5 years ago when I was looking for races to go do?
Right.
No, fortunately, I don't do revenge. Because, it's not going to be enough of a difference.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. What's your least favorite distance?
You know what? The interesting thing is so I'm not going to say a marathon because I don't think, unless you've done a few or trained for a few, that you can actually say that's your least favorite distance. Having not completed it, I can't say that. I don't like 10Ks.
Really? What? Why?
What's
with the 10K?
I don't mind a 5K. I think 5Ks are great. 10Ks is just like it's a little. If I'm going to do that extra work, mm-hmm. I'm going to go do a half marathon.
What about there's the 8K, there's the...
I'm a very big fan of the 5 mile race.
Okay.
Big fan. Snow Fun Run, the Shanahan Frosty 5 miler. Mm-hmm. I've done that one a few times. I did Shamrock once. I like 5 miles. I think it's a great distance. So
it's just that extra 1.2 that just really turns you off. Well,
because it's math. Because when I was improving, really improving, I almost got down to a 10-minute pace, which for me mm-hmm. was holy cow. Well, you know what? If you do, a 10-minute mile for 5 miles, that's 50 minutes. Very, very easy math.
Yeah.
And so that was always my like a goal time.
Okay. But the 8K
for
is
that
not
distance.
5 miles.
I know it's 4.98.
It's so annoying.
4.98.
And that makes the math so hard. Just like
Well, again, I said to somebody, I don't remember who, I'm like, we need to agree on a measurement. I can't do, this is kilometers, this is one in miles. Pick one. We can't have both.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think we're wrong in picking miles per hour. If we did like kilometers per hour and, minutes per K, then all of our race distances would kind of make sense and we'd be able to do the math, but yeah.
That's true, especially when you're following someone on Instagram or any other, platform, and they're showing you not time in miles, but time in kilometers. And all of a sudden you're having to do this bad math.
Yeah. You're like,
Yeah.
whoa, that is crazy fast. Wait,
Right.
no, I don't know what that means.
We're so programmed to know that if someone like drops down a 5:30 or a 5:15 pace for a 5K, that's a great time. But I can't convert that to kilometers.
No,
No.
not even close. I've been tempted to switch my watch to be in minutes per kilometer because then it looks like you're going really fast and just like throws everything off. But I haven't taken that step yet. But
That's funny.
all right. So now, because actually I had forgotten to write down this question, which is why I didn't ask it previously. What is the best piece of advice that you've gotten? Or worst. You can go with worst if you want to go with worst first, but we're going to cover both.
Isn't hosting fun? I mean, that's why people have called me out. You've heard it. Dan called me out. Did you forget how we met? See, you didn't even ask me how we met, but I think.
No, I have that. I that's still on the. That's still in my notes.
Control freak.
Yeah. So just relax. I've got you.
Advice. So, all right. See, and on a serious note, when it comes to advice, some of the problems is that, not problems, but because I have worked a long time at the mile, I'm very familiar with a lot of runners. I'm very familiar with how they run. I'm familiar with what they wear. I get asked a lot of questions and asked a lot of opinions on should I do this, should I do this, should I do that. And the problem with that is twofold. One, you have to figure out what works for you before being influenced by what somebody else is going to share. For example, people ask me all the time about like hydration and nutrition and all that. Well, if you're like an 8:30 marathon pace and I'm in the double digits somewhere, we do not have the same strategy for nutrition and fluids because the timing is going to be 100% different. So I can tell you, well, what I do is I take one every, 4 miles, because for me that's like an hour. And they're like, oh, so I should take one every 4 miles? Well, no, because that for you is like, 30 minutes. So maybe you don't need to fuel as often. So you have to really take the information and modify it for yourself. The other thing is, just because they do it doesn't mean it's going to work.
Yeah.
And that can be applied to countless things. Just because they run 6 days a week doesn't mean you should. Just because they run 3 days a week doesn't mean you should. Just because they're lifting heavy, Liz, doesn't mean you should.
Maybe you should.
But just because they're not hydrating doesn't mean you should. A lot of times I think we look, especially when you are part of a running group and you see how different people, let's talk about like a Wednesday night at the track. Okay? Because, you're watching how other people are hydrating, are fueling, are doing different things at the track. Mm-hmm. Well, that's because that's working for them. Let's say you're very used to let's talk mile repeat. You're used to after a mile repeat, you're able to go grab your water bottle, chug it down, and you have no issues. Okay? Someone else is going to see you do that, take that bottle, do that. They're going to be thrown up on the side of the track.
Do you know this from experience?
No. But I fortunately, no, because I know not to do that. Every lesson learned in running, to me, is learned the hard way.
Yeah. I think there's some good truth in that there isn't a way to do it, but you sort of have to like think about this as an always changing experiment for like what actually works for you. What are people doing? Maybe you try it, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, and not feeling like there is a way to do it right and a way to do it wrong.
And that's something that you and I have in common, because we both, we've talked about that before, and we believe, you have to give something a try. Mm-hmm. But if it's not working, it's not the fault of the person who told you. It's not your fault. It's just that particular strategy is not for you.
Yeah.
That could be the special education inside of me talking now. But, there's all different strategies and ways to cope with all these different things. And you have to try multiple before you find the one that works.
So is that the advice that you would give to somebody else? Say be willing to try different things and experiment, or?
Yeah. Well, 100%. You can't, people will come to me and ask me what I think of what they're doing. And, I normally will give an honest answer, but I will preface it by saying, you may want to consider making this modification. You may want to consider making that modification, because at the end of the day, runners can't have one strategy. Mm-hmm. If you always train under the same conditions, you're training at the same speed, you're training with the same nutrition, you're training with, we can't be single tracked like that. We have to be multi-tracked, because, if you're doing it for race performance, which doesn't necessarily mean speed, right. Race performance could be covering the distance. Mm-hmm. But either way, if you have done a single track or a single track mindset, single track here, you're not open to any other possibilities, you are not setting yourself up for success at all.
Yeah. What's the worst piece of advice you've heard?
That one, I think the challenge with worst, and this is something that somebody else said. First of all, you cannot tell me what to do. Like, no, I know it's terrible. It's a personality flaw, but I need to try Felix, I need to touch the stove to know it's hot.
Yeah.
I need you, for good or for bad. If you're trying to tell me that I should do something to be better, I will shut you down immediately and be like, you don't know me. Mm. I mean, like, I take advice, feedback very badly. So no one's told me anything bad, because I don't listen to anybody. Which is probably why I'm always injured. And, I know what you should do. I just don't do it. But here's the fact about this. But I'm honest about it. I think there are some people who you look at what they're doing or what they're going through or their injury or their nutrition or whatever, and if they don't own the fact that they're not putting the effort into it, mm-hmm. You got to own that. Like, that's what.
Yeah. If you can't be honest with yourself about it, who can you be honest with?
That's the whole thing. I mean, I suppose that the trick in this, and being on this side of the interview, is, revealing my own running style or advice style. Mm-hmm. I don't take what I do very seriously when it comes to my own performance, because I know the maximum of my performance, and I've been at the maximum of my performance, and I know how to get there. Mm-hmm. But now I'm really enjoying taking a more supportive, volunteer, backseat kind of role.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the aspects of running that people don't necessarily associate with running. I think maybe it was Nicole or someone was surprised to learn that you could walk part of a race. You just don't
Yeah.
know these things about like running is, there's all kinds of reasons why somebody would run. Community, achievement, being part of something, all sorts of reasons that have nothing to do with running fast or,
Yep.
top performance or whatever it is. And so I like that you're sort of comfortable in that space of like, here's what I'm here for. It's not what you're here for, and that's fine.
Because it's what, at the end of the day, it's what do you want out of it, or what you
Right.
get out of it.
Yeah.
And you have to determine what you want and what you get, and if that's enough, then you're good. It's kind of a cheesy answer.
It's fine. I don't know if we got your worst advice out of that, but
No,
I think,
because I was probably told bad advice at some time, but I don't really ever remember anybody telling me specifically something that I shouldn't do, and then I subsequently did.
okay.
No.
You just got to test it out.
It's actually the opposite. People give me really good advice, and I just don't follow it.
Let's talk about the famous person who you would like to meet. I think I know the answer to this, but maybe I don't.
I'm going to take the liberty, since many of my guests did as well, and I have two. Now,
All right, that's fair.
I will start with the obvious, because I'm almost positive you're going to think that I'm going to say Alexi Pappas.
Yep.
Yeah, and I 100% am going to say Alexi Pappas, because
Yes.
her book Bravey, I have listened to it audibly probably 8 or 9 times.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is that I can't get specific about it, but her attitude, her relatability, her story, her honesty, it's so different. I mean, she doesn't give a rat's ass what anybody thinks of a single thing she does. And me personally, I don't understand. I know a lot of people who have that attitude. I don't have that. I don't actually have that ability. Because I think that's something that you can train yourself to do, not care so much what other people are thinking.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, let's out of the box. Let's talk about a podcast. What? Yeah. So, but I think that's me just like stepping out and trying, something new and seeing if it could be something.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, as you and I both know, it has turned into something which is, I mean, mind-blowing, but it's being brave to try something. So I would 100%, I still have to start a campaign to figure out how to get her on the show.
What would you say to her?
I don't know. I think, in honesty, I would probably start with similar questions that I ask everyone else. Because the opening questions, start to reveal things that you didn't know and that you can build on.
Yeah.
And I think I would want her to start. Because, so you and I talked about this, I think it was in your episode, where, we know a lot about famous people and they don't know anything about us. Mm-hmm. So I think if I were allowed to meet her, I would do so under the preface that I don't know anything about her. I would really I'd be like, hi, I've never met you. I don't know anything about you. Let's talk.
Yeah. I think that would be fun. That's sort of like the ideal way to have one of those conversations, is sort of level playing field. Let's hear about number 2.
So I'm going to give you a name, and you can tell me if you know this name. because
Okay.
I thought about this one really hard. The gentleman's real name is Gary Cantrell.
It sounds awfully familiar.
So Gary Cantrell is also known as Lazarus Lake.
That's less familiar.
He is the founder of the Barkley Marathons.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Anybody who knows the Barkley Marathons know the Barkley Marathon, the race that's known for eating its young. I find the man crazy.
He's a
And
maniac.
I'm not 100% sure I would actually like to sit in a room with him. But I think he would be fascinating to talk to. But I'm going to hold some. I have one more little piece of swag to share.
All right.
In 2020, when a lot of things went virtual, they actually came up with, it was called the GV Rat, Great Virtual Race Across Tennessee.
Mm.
And he's the one who started that virtual race. And it was
Okay.
400 miles across Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to log in your miles every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing a lot of walking. I was walking anywhere between, or like the time period I had to walk 6 miles a day. When you're not a runner who's used to doing that, that's a lot of miles.
Yeah.
I mean, there are several pictures of me after a long effort, and I'm like laying on the ground, like splayed out.
Jeez.
The last one I did was at Bussy. I think it was like a 10 or 11 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost called somebody to come save me from like Bussy Woods.
Bussy Woods
But-
is haunted. I don't know if you know that.
I would not be surprised.
I'm telling you, there's
For-
something out there.
For my efforts, I have the
Ooh.
Great Virtual Race Across Tennessee belt buckle.
Wow, a belt buckle. That's pretty slick.
Yes. And to me, this is like 6 degrees
Mm-hmm.
to the Crazy Laz.
Yeah.
Because he came up with this. So the funny part is the reason I didn't pull the shirt for this is because when we talk about body image,
Yeah.
I ordered an extra, extra large in their shirt, and it will fit 6 people. So
Okay.
that is pretty bad.
Not good. Not
But yeah,
good.
so those are the 2 people that I would very much like to sit down with.
There you go.
There you go. It's all
All
good.
right. So you were correct in pointing out that I did not have the questions in the right order. You would think editing these episodes week after week, I would know the order in which these questions are asked. However, I think it's fair that we put it at the end
right.
because that's where I'm going to put it. And we all know that every story has 2 sides. And if you go back to episode 12, you'll hear my side or my wife's side of the story. But now you get to tell the story of how do you know me?
Okay, so this is how I remember. I first remember putting name to face at the cross country in 22.
Mm-hmm.
You had the white singlet on. You had the fast track hat on.
Mm-hmm.
I have the picture. And Liz was on the rocks with some littles.
Yep.
And I remember, and the interesting thing is that I remember looking over to the little, and I'm like, that little may look familiar to me. I may know that little from somewhere. And it turns out I did know that little from somewhere. And then, but we didn't like talk about it. Because
We
I
did
think
not,
the
no. So I remember it being at the cross country meet where we first met, but then I don't think we would like exchange names, but that was about it. And then it was only later that we actually sort of like connected on something and
We
actually
did.
talked to each other.
And the interesting thing with that is once you, me, and Liz like get going, like the three of us, oh my gosh, we can't stop.
It's a problem.
Because I think part of the problem is for you, because like I take Liz's side, and then
Truth.
I mean, truth be told, that boils down to one thing, and that's the infamous mustache issue.
That was so recent and so short-lived that can't drive any significant portion of our relationship.
No, but I will tell you this. So a lot of people, when they find out that you are the editor, a lot of people do ask me, like, how did that happen? Now the thing is that it happened because you were someone that we did start to. We had a friendship. We talked. We would talk about at the track. We would see each other at other events, and so I knew right away that if I was going to do this, I wanted you, and I thought you would be a good candidate to test it out with me, to try and see what was going to happen. And so I sent that initial email out, which now seems like forever ago, but it was only like September. I think it was September. No, maybe August. And you sent back an email, and I called you. Nobody caught this like when I did it originally, but I called you Horshack from Welcome Back Kotter. Because you were like, oh, and I was like...
I inserted myself into what you were doing.
You were like, I want to be the editor. But I remember I said, I don't know if that's necessary. I don't know. And then you, me, and Liz shot that episode, and that was it. You were the editor from here on out, because I was like, I can't do that.
Well, I am certainly enjoying it. That came out more sarcastic than I intended it to.
Well,
all right.
See, the thing is, I'm gonna do this metaphor. I feel sometimes like recording and editing are a lot like running, because I know for me, when I edit mine, there are times that I literally am like just like kicking the chair away from the computer, just walking away, because I'm still new at it. So I do get frustrated. I'm learning the program, and I like to it's got to be good. The whole idea has got to be good. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes mid process, like a mid run, you are not enjoying this.
That's true. That is very true. All right. Well, Rachael, thank you so much for joining me on Start Lines and Swag Bags. I hope we can have you on again in the future, if you'd be willing to join. And as we say at the Flying Pig Project, apparently, unlock the crazy to open up a world of possibilities. Yes. Thanks, Rachael. We got a cheers. Oh, you got it. Nice.
Oh.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Have a good one.
Thank
Peace.
You.